Hello, my name is Kimberly Katte, and I manage the Barcelona Knowledge Hub of Academia-Europaea. With me today is Professor Ilaria Capua. She is the winner of the second edition of the Barcelona Hypatia European Science Prize, awarded by the Barcelona City Council in collaboration with our hub. Professor Capua is a virologist and currently directs the One Health Center of Excellence at the University of Florida in Gainesville. Professor Capua, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity of coming back to Barcelona and of being here for Academia-Europaea.
Thank you. Well, first let me congratulate you on the prize. You were chosen by the members of the Hypatia Prize selection jury based on a number of criteria. First, your research career conducted at the highest international level. Also, your proven leadership in promoting open access to genetic information on emerging viruses, which of course is of great interest given the current COVID-19 pandemic. And also for the social impact that you have made through your contributions to the multidisciplinary concept of One Health. Now, you've received many distinctions throughout your career. What does it mean to you to be named winner of the Barcelona Hypatia European Science Prize? What value does that hold for you?
Well, it is a prize that I really feel because I am a European scientist, and I feel this. I wanted to be a scientist as a child, and I succeeded in becoming a scientist because of the European framework that allowed scientists like myself to enrich themselves by learning things that would have been too far, just maybe even 5 years before, 10 years before. I would like to say a word to a fantastic Spanish colleague, Isabel Minguez Tudela, who was working in Brussels at what was at the time DG Research and Innovation, and she facilitated and supported networks of European scientists to work on emerging diseases, which is truly a fantastic vision. We're talking about maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and she's not with us anymore. She passed away some years ago, and yes, this brings me back to the importance of women in science, of women who help women in science, and to the incredible power of getting together brains that come from such a vast territory like Europe.
That was a wonderful tribute to her, and I'm sure that she would be cheering you on if she were here today to see you receive the prize. So taking one step backward, as you can see, we've chosen the living terrace of the Natural History Museum of Barcelona as the setting for our conversation today. And this space was created within the framework of the Barcelona Greenery and Biodiversity Plan for 2020, which promoted more rooftop greenery in the city to create new habitats for its fauna, but also to improve the urban landscape and the quality of life for its residents. Now, we felt that this would be an appropriate starting point for entering the topic of One Health, which is your area of specialty. As you mentioned, One Health encompasses human, animal, environmental health. At the University of Florida, you direct the program in this area. Tell us a little bit about the program. What does it entail? What are your lines of research at this moment?
So, as I arrived to Gainesville as a preeminent scholar, I was given total freedom to develop the center in a radically interdisciplinary manner. And that's what I did. And we started working promoting the importance of the humanities in science, and in particular of arts in science. And we launched some initiatives which were very well received. And we then started working into a broader concept of One Health, which has, of course, its roots in One Health, because it is clear that human health is linked to the health of animals and plants and the environment. But there's more to health than only this overlap. Health is really about interconnections, and it's really about interconnections that are start from the One Health concept, but go beyond the One Health concept. And I think that as we were developing this new way of thinking, which we like to call circular health, the pandemic emerged, and the pandemic is the proof that the interconnections that we thought existed between these three domains are actually much more than what we thought they were, and therefore One Health should actually expand to a larger dimension. The interaction between human health, animal health, plant health, and environmental health shakes systems, shakes markets, shakes society, and we have to look beyond the current borders of One Health and see its true the true power that this concept holds, which is much larger and actually gives health a circular approach. So we should try and make different disciplines converge around health, and health should be much more central in our everyday life, but also in our everyday aspirations. And actually, this Terrace is exactly one of the, I would say, representations of circular health, because it is about allowing citizens to understand biodiversity by seeing biodiversity, and understand that gardens are not only built gardens, but they can be natural gardens, and that there is a life around that natural garden. And so I think that I'm very excited to be here, because I think that this terrace is just one of the perfect examples of how One Health should transition towards a broader reach, which is circular health.
Thank you. So I've read your book. This is the book Circular Health, and in it I discovered that you promote the use of big data, something that can be harnessed to improve the well-being of humans and the entire planet. Can you explain a little bit how that works, or give us an example of the use of big data for improving health?
Yes, so my first encounter with this type of thinking happened just about 15 years ago. And I was working with bird flu. My team was one of the leading teams in the world working on bird flu. And we were fortunate to be the first lab to isolate what would be now called a variant. Okay, so now everybody talks about variants. At the time it wasn't like that. And we had the African variant. And the African variant was something that concerned of international organizations and, of course, the scientific community very much. And this African variant, we sequenced this African variant, and we decided to put the sequence in an open access database rather than putting it in a password protected database, because we thought that everybody had to work with that virus, because it was an important virus that needed to be studied so that we could develop diagnostics and vaccines and whatever we needed to develop at the time. We advocated, and there are colleagues like Stephen Salzberg at Johns Hopkins, and Peter Palese at Mount Sinai, and other colleagues that were very supportive of this initiative, and it came together and it evolved in a way that allowed us to have the sequence of the first SARS-CoV-2 virus deposited in a database, and more sequences were added every day to the point that now we have 1.5 million. And this allowed us to make diagnostics and vaccines and understand monoclonal antibodies and do an incredible amount of work that if we hadn't done it, we would be in a worse place, I think. We wouldn't be where we are. And so going back to your question about big data, the pandemic, because like we can't pretend that it hasn't happened, right? The pandemic is most likely the most measured, the pandemic, which we cannot pretend that has not happened, is the most measured event in human history.
Okay, so going back to the issue of interdisciplinarity in circular health, this is something that Academia Europaea highly values, as the Academy promotes excellence in scholarship in all disciplines. Now, I've read your book, as I mentioned, it's a recommendable read, Circular Health, and you offer a historic view of the evolution of the concept of health, and I was struck by how the ancient Greeks actually had a broader and more inclusive approach to human health than we currently do, which is obviously an example of the effect of centuries of specialization, right? Specialized knowledge. Can you expand on the value of interdisciplinary research and how science has often advanced only thanks to the exchange of knowledge across vastly different fields?
Yeah, I would say that science has advanced faster in some areas because of cross-fertilization from other fields. But I would also like to really emphasize the urgent need we have for disruptive innovation. The pandemic, which we can't pretend hasn't been here, requires new solutions, and we can't be doing things the way we were doing them before. And in my book, which is a sort of accelerated summary of some important discoveries that were made mostly by mistake, but also how transformational those discoveries were, and how difficult it was to accept those discoveries. And if, like, the 3 years of the career or the last 5 years of the career could be spent doing something different in another department, contributing from a completely new perspective, this could allow maybe disruptive innovation, certainly new friendships. I would say mentoring of students from another skill set, and not everybody has to do it. You can do it if you want to, but it would be interesting to have this type of program where you just go and do something that's completely different. So I just wanted to make the point that the pandemic is the most measured event in human history, and therefore we cannot pretend that this is not the case. We are generating with each of our personal devices. I think that at the moment we have maybe 7 per person, 7 devices. We are connected to 7 devices that are measuring everything. Everything. So we have a data potential which I think that very few people can imagine, right? Certainly I can't. It's like, and the point that I want to make is that that data is there and it will be used. And we should use that data not only for commercial uses or other uses, but also to build a convergence around scientific knowledge.
What is your vision for the 21st century? What do you predict will happen in the course of future pandemics, climate change, etc.? What do you anticipate will be the path that we will have to follow in the next few years?
So what I can say is that I have 2 certainties following this pandemic, and the first one is that another pandemic is going to happen, because if there is life, there are viruses, right? And if there are humans, there are pandemics. Pandemics happen. I am so sorry to be able to say this, but pandemics happen. So there is going to be another one. The second certainty I have is that we cannot take another one like this. So what I think we need to do is we need to, first of all, understand that health must be repositioned at the center of our priorities, and this is where circular health comes from. We need to empower citizens to be drivers of their own health, both in terms of their personal health, of the community health, but also of the health of the environment, like this beautiful terrace. I think that we need to break those silos that academia is built on, because that cycle is finished.
Yes.
So this is one of the things I say in my book. Silos have been built because they needed to be built, because we needed to put boundaries around knowledge and work within that knowledge. But now is the time for those boundaries to be opened. Academia should get ahead of this rather than having to chase it, because the generations that are coming after us, they don't have any boundaries in their brain. They don't. So we should facilitate this process. I would like to say that we should facilitate the process of millennials and the Generation Z, who will have computing capacities that we cannot even imagine. And with those computing capacities, they will be able to analyze data in no time. Stuff that it takes now a week or 5 weeks or 6 months of computers, right, spinning and turning, will take no time. And so we will have major things that we don't understand. They will surface, they will come to us, because we will be able to analyze, and we will be able to look at those numbers and those data. And what we need to do is we need to develop an infrastructure that can hold this data, that can make this data interoperable. And actually, with circular health, we are working on one of these infrastructures with CERN, which is, as you know, the largest physics infrastructure we have here in Europe, and I think one of the biggest of the world. And we are working with their IT department to develop a repository in which we can start uploading data which comes from different domains, and we can start looking at some of these, how these heterogeneous data sets can be brought together. We have about 10 working groups that are experimental little groups that are working in a multidisciplinary manner and are going to offer their numbers and their data to this large computational facility. And we are looking forward to connecting this effort of circular health with many other of these initiatives that are happening in Europe just now, and not only in Europe, in the United States and elsewhere. I like to say that Circular Health is a book that I wrote before the pandemic, so I sort of imagined that this was coming, and I think that the pandemic is the perfect you say perfect storm. I would say the perfect rainbow to make this happen, because we really need to bring our knowledge together, and I think that Academia Europaea could be one of the major catalysts of this new way of looking at knowledge.
Professor Capua, thank you so much for your invaluable comments. It's an exciting time and place to be right now. And I congratulate you on your book, Circular Health, and your forthcoming book. And we congratulate you on receiving the Barcelona Hypatia European Science Prize. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I am very pleased to be the first woman to be awarded this prize. I am also very pleased of being a veterinarian who has changed many lives. I have tried to be as multidisciplinary as I can myself, and so I'm happy that this prize is also acknowledging this, and is acknowledging female leadership. So thank you very much, and I am very much looking forward to meeting also the representatives of Barcelona City Council, and whom I thank again for hosting. Thank you.